So a very good morning from my side. Yeah, you see it here. I have the pleasure to invite you to a little journey into sustainability and what it means for the insurance sector in particular, and how we look at it at VIG. Maybe a couple of words about VIG. Vienna Insurance Group is comprising almost 50 insurance undertakings in Central and Eastern Europe. We are operating in around about 30 countries. We are in the top 20 overall in Europe. And if you only look at non-life, we are already in the top 10. I mentioned this not as a commercial intro, but to make you understand where we're coming from when it comes to sustainability, because the area we are operating in, Central and Eastern Europe, is a particular challenge when it comes to ESG and sustainability in a broader term, and also the way we function. We are a decentralized insurance group, so really a group and not a concern or Konzern in German in the classic understanding. So we have a lot of individual freedom on the ground in the individual countries, and this is a particular challenge when it comes to the transposition. But without further ado, we are here at the European Law Academy. I would like to frame my intervention by some European legal acts that are determining the way we are operating. I may start with the overall ambition that we are facing in Europe. We are on the way to net zero by 2050. There is a clear glide path determined by the European Commission. And as you can see here, because very often the argument is put forward, we in Europe, can we do it alone? For sure we can't. We are only representing in Europe around about 8% of the greenhouse gas emissions in the world, 8% only, followed by the United States that account for around about 17%, and then China representing around about 27% of greenhouse gas emissions. So the three of us together account for almost 50%, and if we all move in the same direction, of course we can make a difference. I should like to underline that these are public commitments. These are commitments by governments, and these commitments are enshrined in international law, which brings us to the question, how does this affect us as a private industry? We insurers, we are a private industry. Are we bound to these commitments that were given by the 27 member states and the European Union as a whole? Now, the answer to that is the following. When reflecting on viable solutions to make net zero a reality, and looking back to past ambitions, we came to a point altogether that nice words are not enough. We need very strict initiatives to change the real economy. And you know, changing the real economy, established business models is very difficult, of course, in practice. So we need, that was the thinking of the policymakers at the time in Brussels, we need the strongest instrument for making this a reality, the net zero ambition. And they did not have to reflect a long time. The strongest instrument is certainly the capital market, the financial industry. If we change the financial industry and their thinking and their acting, then immediately this translates into the real economy. Because if you don't get a financing of your business model any longer, if you don't get an insurance for your business model any longer, maybe you reflect on doing something different in the future. So this is it where we are coming from when we look at it from a political angle. And let's be frank, we as insurance sector or the financial industry as a whole is used as an instrument to change the real economy. What you find here are a couple of individual commitments. There are some more ambitious member states, including mine, Austria. By the way, we don't even have a climate law, still in the making for 3 years. So there is a lot of official political ambition, a bit less in the making, but, and I think that's important, we're here at the European Law Academy, we have a European climate law. And this is important for us because it obliges all our 27 member states to go in that direction. We also have an ambition from the United States under the current president, Joe Biden, who introduced it quite quickly. We will see if this will continue after the next presidential elections in autumn 24, whoever will be then president. Also China gave a clear commitment, and India. So that's a bit the background where we're coming from. Now, the second important message to you is we have this clear ambition, but we as an insurance industry are still free to do what we want to do. But we have to be transparent about it. This is not the case for some important sectors of the real economy. And first and foremost, I should like to mention the real estate sector, the building and construction sector. They are facing some severe intervention when it comes to energy efficiency of buildings, when it comes to the ability to sell property, when it comes to the ability to rent out property. The more we advance, the more we see some intervention from the public side in the real estate sector. Why? It's simply explained. The real estate sector is the top polluter when we compare all the sectors together. They represent around about a third of all the greenhouse gas emissions, even a bit more, and 40% of the energy consumption. So if we change something about the way we build our houses, if we change about the way how we are heating and cooling our houses, we can change a lot. That's the first one. The second one is the automotive sector. The automotive sector you may have heard of, the sales ban for internal combustion engines applicable from 35. I know there is some exit for particular combustion engines, but this is kind of an outlier. But in broader terms, also the automotive sector is facing some interference by the public side. And I underline this because, and there are a couple of other real economy sectors that face already European legal intervention. We don't face this yet in the insurance sector. So we're still free to do what we want to do, but I will explain to you in a minute, things are about to change. But before I come to that, just let me share with you, does all these climate regulation really work? I mean, it's a lot of ambition, there's also a lot of frustration, but I brought to you a positive example. I see some in this room, like myself, born in the 70s or in the 60s, so we still remember the issue of the ozone layer in the 80s. That was all of a sudden there, and it was getting bigger and bigger. You may remember in Australia, New Zealand, it was particularly an issue there. And at the time, interestingly enough, politics reacted rather fast, and they were banning the chlorofluorocarbons, quite a difficult word, but it's a story of success. It was banned, and as you can see here, it's really going down. And in the 2060s, if I'm not mistaken, the ozone layer may disappear completely. Of course, unfortunately, this does not happen to the CO2. That's a different story. But I brought this example along to show you that legal intervention can work in the environmental area. And this is a kind of historical example that's quite illustrative, I think. Now, going into the substance of the sustainable finance package and all the legal acts that we are confronted with, it's a lawyer slide, a lot of small print. Sorry for that, but I was intending to share with you all these legal acts. It's not all of them, yeah? But the most prominent ones that are of relevance to us. What you see on your right-hand side at the top is the European climate law that is in force, up and running, and as I mentioned, it contains the clear ambition of the European Union and its 27 member states, including Hungary and Poland, I always underline this, to be net zero by 2050. What does this mean, net zero? You take all the greenhouse gas emissions you have today and you reduce them by around about 90% until 2050. Why 90? You have still some flexibility with the 10% because you won't have a sharp landing at the 100%, so that explains a bit the net zero in very simple terms. So there we find the ambition. But how now is this European climate law translated into the financial sector? It's with the help of the Sustainable Finance Package. It was presented at 2 stages. The first one already in 2018 and the second one in 2029. And simply explained, you can separate it into 3 segments. The first one is about standards. What is sustainable? Every one of us here in this room may have a different understanding, a different individual perception. What is sustainability, or what is a sustainable economic activity? And to get to a common understanding, the European Commission proposed the so-called EU taxonomy, which is a kind of green dictionary to identify under what conditions certain economic activities are to be considered to be sustainable. From the asset management side, you could also say it's a green shopping list. So if you want to invest environmentally friendly, you look into the EU taxonomy and then you get a clearer idea where to invest and where not. There are some, let's say, 2 children of the EU taxonomy. It's 2 standards that we may face very soon, sooner or later. The first one is the EU Green Bond Standard. In the interest of time, I will not go into greater detail. It will be adopted very soon. It's a voluntary standard, but it gives you an idea what is a green bond. If you want to issue such a bond, you will have to invest 85% of the use of proceeds into taxonomy-aligned activities. You have 15%, of flexibility. But this to give you a rough idea how this works. And this should provide for some legal comfort for investors on the one hand, so we are also an institutional investor as insurance industry, but also for those who are doing the legal counseling, because of course it provides you for some legal comfort as we all have a common understanding what is a green bond, but again it's a voluntary standard. The second child of the EU taxonomy, if I might call it that way, is the EU eco-label. I will come to that at a later stage in my presentation. Something that is very close to my heart because I think personally that the eco-labeling has a great future, but I will come to that in a couple of minutes. So that's about the standards. Once we have agreed upon what is sustainable and what not, we have to be transparent. I've been sharing with you that we have some real economy sectors that have to face some intervention on how they are operating. We as insurance industry are still free to do what we want, but we have to disclose it to the public. We have to be transparent. The first one is the Sustainable Finance Disclosure Regulation that only affects us as life insurers. It's not of importance for the non-life insurers, but there is also something for the non-life insurers later on. But this brought these famous categories of Article 8, Article 9 products, so the light green, the dark green products, and we also have some entity levels, so company disclosures in that. That's up and running. We have some pre-contractual templates that we have to apply when we speak to the customer. They are quite complicated, I have to say, so it's maybe not the best piece of legislation that we find, but it's something we have to work with, and it is currently reconsidered. So the SFDR will be reworked fundamentally. Currently, the European Commission is consulting on the SFDR, and maybe in the medium-term future, the SFDR will be some kind of product labeling instrument. Let's see, but it's one of the options that is on the table. So this is an important piece of legislation. The next one will be a brief one. It's the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive. I will be very short, not because it's not important, it's very important, but we have the pleasure to have Julia with us, who will give you a greater insight into the corporate reporting that we do on European level in the future. And what we publish there will be sourcing the ESAP. It's the European Single Access Point. It is nothing less than a European company database that should be available by the mid of 27, so still some time to go. And it will provide you with information on financial data and sustainability data of more than 50,000 companies in the European Union that are the ones that are reporting under the CSRD. I personally think in practical terms it will be much more, because the more you're transparent, the more you're likely to get a financing or to get an insurance. But this is something that will be of great value, certainly in the medium-term future, the ESAP, European Single Access Point, something quite valuable. And then once we have been super transparent, so we have declared ourselves how sustainable are we, of course there are some requirements on the governance, how we organize ourselves internally. And that's particularly for us lawyers a very, very important piece of legislation, which is the Corporate Sustainability Due Diligence Directive. I will come to that in a couple of minutes on another slide. From my perspective, a groundbreaking piece of legislation that will have a huge impact on the way we are operating. Of course, also distribution is affected. The delegated act on EBIPs had to be changed. It's up and running and we apply it. And also in terms of sustainability, we heard it already from Nico Pscheidl this morning, we have to consider sustainability, the sustainability risk in our ORSAs and some other instruments. So this is also on the way and up and running, and we apply this already. But this is just to give you a small overview. It's not complete. You know, there's the benchmark regulation and there's some other pieces, ESG ratings and so on and so forth. But from an insurer's perspective, I would say these are the most important ones, but it's not all of them. So now after this little overview, I'd like to share with you how we're looking at it and how we're applying it in practice, also as VIG. You know, when we speak with policymakers, they're always fascinated when speaking to the insurance industry. You insurers, you are the largest institutional investor, fantastic. So if you change, the world will change. Yes, there is some logic in that, but unfortunately, our green investment capacity, and it also was touched upon by Nico Pscheidl this morning in the context of Solvency II, is a bit overrated by the public. Because when you look into our asset management in the detail, we see that the lion's share of our investments is in government bonds and in bank bonds. And these are not taxonomy eligible for the moment, so we cannot really present them in a certain manner. So that's really the lion's share of our investments. In some countries outside the European Union, we're also operating outside the European Union, in Serbia, Turkey, Georgia, and other countries. There is even more difficult to find appropriate investments. So this is the first point. The lion's share of investments of an insurer are typically not taxonomy aligned. To give you a rough estimation, there is also a KPI on that. It's the investment KPI. It's less than 10%. Less than 10% of the investments of an insurer, typical European insurer, is taxonomy aligned in the sense of being sustainable. So no matter what company you look at, large, big, small, and so on, it's more or less the same. So it's in between 4, 5, 6%, I think up to 10%. That's, I think, the maximum we've seen so far in terms of KPIs. The second point I brought here is, of course, you know, we are a long-term investor, so we don't do any revolution when we do investing. So we don't do that overnight. So when we change our investment behavior, we, of course, keep our investments up to maturity. So it's a slow shift when we do some changes. Otherwise, we would realize potential losses for our policyholders, and it's something we don't like to do. The third point is when you do investment in sustainability, of course, you need some predictive capabilities on the future of certain real economies. So when I'm investing in shares, in bonds of a certain sector or a certain company, I need a quite good judgment on the future of this. And we should not overestimate the capabilities we have in-house on such predictions. And the fourth and quite simple argument is there is a certain lack of supply. We would love to invest more in wind parks in Eastern Europe, but it's quite difficult to find them. There are some of them, but that's the point. So we need the right projects that are taxonomy aligned. We need also the right partners. We can't do it alone. And this, by the way, goes also for our competitors. So there is some certain lack of supply of adequate projects, but it's getting better and better every year. But just to share that also with you on the investment side. That's when it comes to the institutional level, the entity level, the corporate level, when we as insurers invest. When we look at the retail investment side, and we'll speak a lot about retail investments this afternoon, but there it is, the eco-label. And from my perspective, this is something very promising. What you see on the left-hand side are national eco-labels. We are here close to Luxembourg, we're in Germany. We have a couple of national eco-labels applied here in France, also in the Nordics, also in Austria. And I can tell you that this is, to a certain extent, a story of success. Our Austrian group companies issued sustainable products, it's unit-linked life products, under the national eco-label. And this is, as I said, a story of success. Why? Because the public, the retail investor, is acquainted with these eco-labels. They know it. They know it also from other products. It's not only financial products that are awarded with this eco-label. It's also something you have in your daily life, you know, when you use kitchen cleaning material whatsoever. So you use it on all kinds of different products. And the problem you see here on this European map on the left-hand side is that where we are operating predominantly in Eastern Europe, we don't have that. But the good news is the European Commission is working on such an eco-label for unit-linked life insurance. Unfortunately, it encounters significant delays. We're waiting for it and waiting for it and waiting for it. We hope this will be somehow accelerated because the eco-label under the EU eco-label regulation would set out a clear list of criteria under which you are entitled to carry this label, and you can apply for it on national level. So it's not awarded by the European Commission or EIOPA or someone else. It's awarded on a national level. But it would be of great help if we could sell our unit-linked life insurance under this eco-label. So far, the eco-label is not awarded to financial products. It is awarded to around about 70,000 different products, 70,000, so it's quite a lot. If you never came across this eco-label, you're a bit in a situation as I have been. But I can tell you an experience a couple of years ago in a hotel in Brussels, taking the shower. I was, pushing on the soap dispenser. And there, all of a sudden, I saw the EU eco-label. So, it's products like these that are already carrying the EU eco-label, and it shall be expanded to financial products under certain criteria. So it could be a great help. Again, it's the EU eco-label regulation. Hopefully, it will be opened up to financial products quite soon. The next slide I will keep extremely short. Again, it's on the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive. We will hear more about that from Julia. But again, I just would like to draw your attention on this point 6 up there. Once the number 5, the European Single Access Point is up and running, that's the EU company database, providing you with financial and sustainability information about your corporate customers. This would be a great source of information for industrial insurance in particular. If you want to learn more about our corporate customers, in what condition are they in financial terms, in sustainability terms, this could be a great help for underwriting purposes in non-life insurance, but also in terms of investments. The next one, I already referred to that, is about the Corporate Sustainability Due Diligence Directive, the CSDDD. It's still in the making. It's not finalized yet. We have some fierce discussions. And I remember a very good conversation we had here at ERA some time ago. It was, I think, even pre-corona, during lunchtime. And there was a representative from the European Commission. And this representative said to me, Dieter, actually, we should have started with this one. Because it's the tone from the top that matters, and exactly that's what the CSDD is about. It's about the duties of care of the management board. So the management board, in very simple terms, in the future will be obliged to take into account not only, kind of profit maximization, but also environmental and human rights issues. This will be part of their duty of care, and it will be, of course, supported by some civil liability that can trigger a lot of issues like climate litigation, compensation, and so on and so forth. So we'll have huge discussions also on that. There are also some pecuniary sanctions linked to that. They are linked to turnover, so it can get quite expensive if we don't play according to the rules. But I think the most important key takeaway for you is that your management boards will be under the duty to also consider the environment and human rights when taking certain decisions. And moreover, it's all about the money. So the remuneration of the management board will be linked to so-called transition plans. Transition plans is something that popped up already in the CSRD. It now also pops up here. It is nothing more and nothing less than something I presented to you at the beginning of my presentation. It's all about the reduction of your greenhouse gas emissions you have in your books, both on the active and the passive side, so asset and liability side. So we as an insurance group and also as an individual insurance undertaking, we have to commit to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions over time until 2050. That's, in very simple terms, the transition plan. It's much more complicated in technicalities than that, but that's simply explained. And that's an important point now, the remuneration of your management board has to be linked to that transition plan and to the compliance with that transition plan. This is a safeguard that we take a lot of ambition already right now to do that, because otherwise you could say, by 2050, I will be on retirement, I don't care about this. No, it's about this transition plan. So already by next year, the year afterwards, and so on and so forth, we have to stick to the rules that we gave ourselves, this transition plan, and remuneration will have to be paid out accordingly to the management board. So this is a very important aspect of the CSDD. Some compliance issues, certainly, that your due diligence policies will have to be adapted, but this is also something we already need for some KPIs under the sustainability reporting, the underwriting KPI, and so on. We need much more information in non-life underwriting about our customers in terms of fossil fuels in particular and human rights. And transition plans already mentioned. Again, the CSDD is still in the making. There are some very, very interesting aspects on the table. I will not share them here because I don't want to create any misunderstanding, but maybe the CSDD will look a bit different in the end than it looks right now, but it will be a very important piece of legislation and certainly something for the ERA program in the future, because it really affects us a lot from a legal perspective. Now coming back from the entity level, the corporate level, to distribution again. I always keep saying without distribution we are nothing. So if we don't do any premium, we are non-existing. So it's really important in life insurance, in the area of EBIPs, how we distribute the products to our customers. What you find here is kind of up and running. It's in application. It's more or less a decision tree that we have to run through when we sell unit-linked life insurance to our dear customers. You see here in green the new aspect. The gray aspect is already existing for quite some time. We still have to investigate, of course, the investment objectives of our customer, and now this is added up, completed by the sustainability preferences. It's not a simple question, yes or no. In case the customer has no sustainability preferences, which happens quite a lot, I have to say, then you're easy off. That's it. But in case yes, then it gets quite complicated, because you have to ask the customer a couple of questions in terms of, how much sustainability alignment would you like to see in your product, etc., etc. So I ask you, If you ask the normal distributor, the normal customer about the EU taxonomy, I think you will look into very astonished faces. So this is particularly the problem we are facing. It is over-engineered from our perspective, this list of questions. So hopefully we will see in the medium term, again, with the help of eco-labels, a streamlining and a simplification of the distribution process for our retail customers. Because if our retail customers want to orientate themselves when it comes to sustainability, they are really in a very tricky situation. What you see here is the current universe of complexity that our customers are exposed to. When the dear customers are looking for sustainable retail investment products from an insurance perspective, you know, under the number one, that's what I just explained to you, it is this decision tree. So you have the sustainability preferences, these questions we have to run for you, already quite complicated. How much sustainability do you want, taxonomy alignment, and so on and so forth. Second is then the SFDR templates. I mentioned that when I gave you this overview of all the sustainability regulation. It's templates that we have to produce since the beginning of this year, if I'm not mistaken, because it took some time for the ESAs to produce these templates, but they're also quite demanding and difficult to understand. Now with the risk, the retail investment strategy, we will see an update of the key information document under PRIPS, which shall be extended by some sustainability information, which kind of ESG summary, which will also add further complexity to the understanding, because it's something that you deliver in addition to the SFDR templates, so more and more and more and more paper. Then recently ESMA, the securities authority based in Paris, issued its views on sustainability-related fund names. So if you call your retail investment product eco-friendly, climate-friendly, environmental-friendly, or whatsoever, there are certain rules you have to comply with. Again, this is on top of all that. So the supervisors issued their perception on the use of such sustainability-related fund names. And under 5, something you know already from my presentation, the EU eco-label. It's still in the waiting line. But again, that would be an additional aspect to consider. And in that universe of complexity, of course, our customers, our distributors currently have to act. This is really, really challenging. And for us, as product manufacturer, as insurers, we have the challenge that we are not running the risk of the legal greenwashing. Because, of course, whatever we do is with the very best intention. We want to be as authentic as we can be. We don't want to overstate what we're doing on sustainability, but we also don't want to understate what we're doing. So finding the right balance is quite tricky. On the one hand, we do our best to comply with all these transparency requirements when it comes to retail investments. But devil lies in the detail. So the key takeaway from that slide would be, please do some streamlining and simplification in the next legislative term of the European Commission 24 to 29, because the current situation is a very, very difficult one. In the Q&A, if you want, so I can also share some experiences with you on the uptake of these products in the different markets we're operating in. And that's my very last slide. I want to share with you, that's a bit more on the non-life side, also on the retail investment side, but more on the non-life side. You know, we as insurers, we are in the middle here, marked in red, and we are surrounded by a lot of stakeholders with a lot of different expectations towards us as insurers. We are confronted with the expectations from politics, from NGOs that are also liking to talk to us a lot, I have to say. I presented to you the sustainable finance package. It's all about that. We have the supervisors looking after us. By the way, EIOPA is currently working on potential ways forward on a so-called brown penalizing factor under Solvency II review, which would mean, in very simple terms, that if we continue to underwrite fossil fuels and the like, it will cost us something in terms of capital charges, potentially. It's still in the making. I think consultation will be out still this year, and it's under the Solvency II review mandate There will be no green supporting factor, as I heard, but the brown penalizing factor. This will certainly trigger also our discussions in the future. Auditors, of course, looking into that. It's also something Julia is dealing with. Auditors looking into our sustainability statements. We have investors, analysts, rating agencies, banks looking into that. Honestly said, we are quite happy with what the banks are doing because they are playing the bad cop and we can be the good cop, because the first arriving at our customers, the SMEs and the corporate customers in a broader sense, is the banks. So they are confronting their customers with questions about, what about the fossil fuel that you're running? What about the human rights, and so on and so forth? And then we just come in second. So they already heard all that. So for them, it's not so new, but it's strongly interlinked. Something I think that was not mentioned yet today is the role of the reinsurers. We should not forget that the reinsurers have their own transition plans. They're very ambitious. If you look at Munich Re, Swiss Re, Hannover Re, and all the others, SCOR, don't want to continue that list, but it's a quite long list. They have their own ambitions. And in the future, I always keep saying, the capacity that you can buy in from your reinsurer will be measured in two different currencies. The one is your official currency, it's euro or zloty or whatever. And the other one is CO2. So the reinsurer, having their own glide paths in terms of reduction of greenhouse gas emissions, of course, is translating that ambition into you as a primary insurer. So we should not forget about that. That will have a certain impact also, I have to say, on motor insurance, because unfortunately, currently, motor insurance, we have to display in a very unfortunate manner. We have to take a lot of the CO2 emissions into our books from motor insurance. That's a bit linked to the sustainability reporting. We're not so happy about that. As you can imagine, in Eastern Europe, motor insurance is quite important. But let's see, there is something on the way to improve that situation. So that's a bit the situation we're in. With our transition plans, of course, also our customer portfolio might change. We may look a bit more towards sustainable customers, but I should like to say, as representing an insurance group, being very active in Central and Eastern Europe, we should not forget about those who are on the way. So who are transitioning towards a green future, who are taking a lot of ambition and initiative to transform the business models. So we as VIG understand a bit more our role in helping them to get on the way, to do that, not to punish them, to just push them out from our portfolio. That's not the way we follow it. It's more the contrary, that we try to get on a journey together into the net zero future. Dear colleagues, that's it from my side. I hope I could provide you a little bit of insight on how we're dealing with it, what are the legal constraints, what are the also legal ambitions that we find. And I may conclude on a note that we are on the way, we are on our journey. We will certainly see the next legislative term in Brussels, 24 to 29, as a kind of repair session. We have seen a lot of sustainability legislation being pushed through at a record speed. It's like a TGV or ICE in Germany, very fast. And maybe some of the issues like the SFDR and other issues may deserve some repair in some parts. That's it from my side. Thank you very much.